Most business owners think they need another hack when the reality is their mindset, honestly, is the piece that's holding them back. And I know it because it's happened to me. And in reality, it's the difference between really those who end up hitting their first $1,000,000 and the ones who stay stuck at 5K a month, not even be able to hit that first $1,000 a day, pieces like that. It's not, once again, it's not strategy. It's the mindset. And if I'm being blunt, it's the way they think. I want to dive into this today here. I'm going to be really going off the cuff with a lot of this because I just feel like it's such an important piece, and I think that the word mindset is spread way too far out, spread too thin, way too vaguely spoken on. And I just want to keep it like a real simple that can just help you to really maybe potentially analyze some of the negative kind of thoughts you have going on in your head and allow yourself to really kind of plow through there too. I know because sometimes it can even feel like for you in the business, like, have you ever felt like you're doing really has it ever felt like you're doing all the right things, but the results aren't happening? That absolutely, like, without a doubt, you felt that way before. I felt that way before. I'd be lying if I said this. Sometimes it doesn't I don't feel that way, yesterday, right? I didn't feel that way yesterday, but you get the picture here. It comes and goes. And I always talk about how being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, there will constantly be speed bumps. The reality that I want you to really lean into and your superpower that I would love to see you go ahead and put that cape on and perform with is how you handle those speed bumps, right? And being able to kind of have the right toolbox, if you will, to equip that. So I want to go ahead, like I said here, dive in, keep this one good. Obviously, if it's your first time at the channel, welcome. Go ahead and drop a new in the comments. If you're returning, say I'm back, Justice. Feels good to be here. Drop a hashtag feeling good, hashtag whatever day it is you're watching, hashtag back again. And of course, if you're returning as well, definitely do me a favor and subscribe. If you haven't, this is your first video you're watching, welcome. And I'm not going to, don't feel the need to subscribe yet. Let's wait till we get you some value and we can really get you locked and loaded. I want to make sure we give you just really a great experience here today when we tackle this topic, and hopefully make sure you want to hit the like button when it's all said and done. If not, then I haven't done my job, so I'm fine with that. But like I said, let me know as well too, actually, before I dive in, because I really want to just get in and kind of just like go off the cuff with this one here too. Obviously, my name is Justice Severin. All right, I run the Bestseller Business Mastermind, and really I've just helped coaches, creators expand their personal brand and really monetize a small audience. Like that's my bread and butter. That's what I really love to help folks do. And at the same time, I run the 30-minute coaches system. And that is why today I just want to talk about some of the stuff that happens underneath those systems, those strategies, right? Marketing, sales, income producing activities, all this stuff that I know is potentially either holding you back, or I wanted to, maybe this video could be a pat in the back for you. If you feel like, you know what? I feel like I'm in line with a lot of the stuff you're talking about today, Justice. Then kudos to you. Let's lean in. All right. And let me know too your niche down below, and I'll help you so I can kind of give you maybe some top of the line strategy and kind of pieces that you should focus on so that you can kind of tell when the mindset's barking at you or something else is. So let me know what your niche is, and I'll comment some ways I think kind of like your top income producing activities would be, so you know where to focus on, and really we're going to get into some of the ways that you should be focusing. So let's go ahead and jump in. Out the gates, fear is holding you back. This is a reality. This is something where we can try to beat around the bush and act like this isn't the reason. It's the politics, it's the government, it's society, it's my neighbor, it's my sister, it's my brother, it's my father, it's my aunt. It's what, sad seasonal depression. It's all of it. We can absolutely go ahead and blame all these other pieces, but the reality is that fear is what's holding you back right now. I was taught by a mentor a long time ago. I remember it was for a Facebook ads class, and he was talking about how, and this was on a group coaching call, and he was saying how, like, right now, you don't want these ads to work. Right. And when you hear that, you're like, what are you talking about? Like, I paid good money to be here. Of course I want this stuff to work. But the reality is, what he's trying to say is that right now, if these ads start to work, what's going to happen? you're going to have to now serve a lot more clients than you had to before. You're going to now have more pressure on your table. You are going to be put into more uncomfortable situations. Potentially right now, let's just say you're under 2K a month. You're under 10K a month. You only have so many clients right now that you're working with, right? And I say 10K a month because especially, you know me, I'm all around promoting really more of high ticket offers on that end. So let's just say you got a 2 to 5K offer. You could only have about, 2 to 5 clients there. So when you start, if you want to go start pumping money into ads, you may potentially get an influx of clients. And that scares you. And you won't, at the surface level, you'll never let yourself think that, But the reality is that it frightens you and it makes you uncomfortable. And I don't see that as a bad thing. I think it's good that we have the awareness, and then from there we actually go ahead and address the problem. All right. But the point I'm trying to make with that, sharing that story, is just that he's right. A lot of people in that room, I didn't believe that I was one of them, but even if I was or I wasn't, hearing that, it at least allowed me to bring that thought, that emotion to the surface. And I'm like, yeah, what am I feeling behind this? Like, and just remove the ego to the side. How does that make me feel thinking that I could get an influx? Like I said, right now, you may be thinking, I would love to have 50 clients. I'd be dying for that. But the reality is you don't know what that looks like, right? Because right now you don't even have 10 clients. You don't have 3 clients, or you've never had maybe more than 3 or 10 clients at a time. So you don't really know what it's like to handle that. And maybe you've had a bad experience before with a client. And now you're thinking, well, what happens if I bring on 5 times as many clients, I may have 5 times as many bad experiences. That last time just made me feel like crap. Like, I'm not trying to deal with that, So once again, that luckily is not how it works out, right? In reality, you can do improve your pre-qualifying, make sure you get the right people in the first place. But let's not overlook the reality here is that there's fear that jumps out to you, right? And maybe even when I just mentioned that, right? I just said before, it's like, yeah, you have 5 times as many bad clients now. Because the ratio, you just, instead of having 3, you got 15 and the ratio stayed the same. Now the fear is going to be kicking with you that story is true. So like I said, the reality is that story does not have to be true. We have pieces in our control. And I just wanted to let you know, yet again, reiterate that fear is holding you back. All right? Fear is holding you back. All right? So we just got to put that out there flat, front and center, just so you know it, because this is not like any other, corporate job, any other kind of place where just like take these steps and you get here. We're running an online business. There are going to absolutely be uncomfortable pieces, and we got to know how to really just get past them, right? Beyond that, now it's not about, because once again, we understand the fear piece now, right? Like my goal here is not to harp on the fear. I just want to make sure that you're aware of it. It's not about working harder. It's about working smarter. All right. You've heard this before, or I'm not the first person to say that to you, but I share this because when you can have this, and obviously let's take a third piece, because I don't want to leave it there. It's not about working harder. It's about working smarter. If you can do both, you're going to be a winner. I'll tell you that right now, front and center, because if you can work hard and smart, obviously you're going to absolutely crush it. But the problem is that a lot of people are stuck working harder. When I think about it, even when I first got into the online space, I was pumping out a ton of TikTok videos, right? Pumping out a ton, trying to get the ball rolling. But when I was looking back, really, I was playing kind of this gambling strategy. Really for me, I was just kind of out there putting stuff out, hoping it hits, right? Hoping I get that algorithm lottery system to hit, right? What reality happened, though, is that I put out content, didn't really get traction, and I just kind of was just waiting in between, And this is what I mean here, where it's like, yeah, I was working hard to make those videos, but was I working smart? And it wasn't until I actually paired with because I got that strategy from a course. I spent about $2,500 on it when I was just getting into all this. We're talking this back, early 2020, into this industry, if you will. I was online before as a music producer, but it was a very different industry. But with that being said, I had it where, like I said, I got the course, told me to do that, but then it wasn't until I got my first one-on-one coach, one-on-one mentor, that they really introduced me to the impact that can have if you really pour your time and energy into learning and developing your high income skill sets, right? Really dialing down when it comes to sales, when it comes to marketing. These are the things that without a doubt, and even as I sit here now, I still am a firm believer when I look at how far I've taken my business. As you know, I've gotten to $1 million and beyond, as you can see from the plaques behind me, right? But the reality is, when I think about the people who started when I did, there are a lot of them that aren't here anymore. And I believe that because of it, or that a part of the reason that that's true is because they were looking for this, just like, let me follow these steps and I'll get there. Let me just kind of go ahead and follow this like simple steps, really, right? And I'll just work hard at these simple steps. And it's not the problem that it's simple, because I think that at its core, sales and marketing they're simple steps as far as like, yeah, it's just two things. It's simple. But the reality is you can go so deep in each, right? Sales, marketing, copywriting, really understanding these skill sets and how you can really utilize them to your benefit. They take hours. And when I say hours, I don't mean like a dozen. They take hundreds, right? That's why this mentality of spend 10,000 hours on something, just one skill to really sharpen that. I can't act like I've sitting here and I've counted how many hours I've done with this stuff here, because I'm not focused on that. But the reality is, though, I've spent at least hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours. I wouldn't be surprised if I've hit thousands. But like I said, this isn't a flex on how many hours I've done, how many hours I feel like you need. The point is, just get started, right? Because a lot of you are just really spending a dozen, a couple dozen, and thinking, all right, I should be where I'm at. And that's why, yet again, the fear keeps popping up, right? Because you're thinking you should be further than you are when you really haven't done anything to deserve it. Right? And that's where we really want to jump out and just understand this mentality of, let's not just work smarter, let's work smarter and harder to really win. That's how we can really start to get ahead that much more here too. And I believe, let me know if you believe this is true. I believe as humans, right, we want everything to be easier. Would you agree, right? As humans, we want everything to be easier, right? We want to believe that everything is easier than it is. And I think the funny part is that, I'm laughing, but we'll laugh as I say that. But I think that your actions a lot of the times are really not in alignment with your laughter. Your actions are really, they don't show anything different, that you're on the other side of that statement. And that's where, I think back to even too, when it comes to implementing on core strategies. Back in 2020, I got on Instagram, and really that was really towards the end of 2020, because early 2020, I really started seeing my first success with Facebook. I got rolling there. Like I said, that's when I started to get I found the one-on-one coach. I started really leaning into high income skill sets. I just doubled down on that one platform. Right? I'm a big believer in the power of one. And so that's why for myself, I really started to see traction there, and I just want to double down and stay there. Stick with what's working. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So from there, I hit my first $1,000 day. So it was my first $1,000 a month. Next month, I had $2,000 days. It was my first $2,000 month. The month after that, I hit my first $15K month, and then slowed down, if you'll, hit a $7K month after that month, and then hit my first $30K month. And dominoes have been getting knocked ever since. But I share this because I was really focused on one. And so I remember it was towards the end of 2020 that I wanted to start to bring in Instagram. And I'll tell you what, if I start this story in reverse, it was short-lived at that point. I'm big on Instagram now, but I'm talking back in 2020. I got on Instagram. I thought, let me just go ahead and, I'll post a couple of posts. I'll make it work. I'll just kind of get some stuff out there, and but I'm going to keep Facebook as the main thing. But I'll just drop a couple of posts here and there on Instagram, and I'll start raking in the dough. I'm making money over here on Facebook. It's going to be very simple to just drop a couple of things here and there. There are people who are dedicating hours and hours to the platform on a daily basis and not seeing any results. But why? I don't see why I can't make it. They're just messing up. I can drop a little something and probably do a whole lot better than they can. And this is what I mean here, where we come into this thing thinking it's going to be so much easier than it is. And so I'll tell you right now, I did not let that last long, because yes, I could have just kept on. I'm a big believer in and I say this all the time, where energy goes, energy flows. A very common saying, but I'm a strong believer in it. And I know that me just kind of taking those couple of, I was posting a couple posts a week and just kind of simply repurposing, which is not a big deal, but I wasn't doing it in a leveraged way. As far as I wasn't using automation, it was taking up time. And I think more importantly at the time, it was a distraction energy-wise to me. And that's where I truly believe that you need to cut those things off, unless you're coming into it with a full-on game plan. Like I said, I cut it off because I knew that all right, Justice, and probably my mentor maybe told me at the time too, who are you kidding? That's not getting you really you're not really doing anything to allow it to get you anywhere. So stop that, double down and focus on what you've been doing on Facebook and just keep leveling up, right? And then to be honest with you, the next platform I basically got into on outside of Facebook was I then started to grow my email list, I was always growing my email list. I just wasn't sending emails, and then basically I started my newsletter and started sending emails to my list. But that didn't happen until I made my first $100,000 online. The point being here is that I always took the next leverage step from what worked, and I wasn't trying to take. I did try to take a shortcut and just try to make something happen, sprinkle some results here. But the reality is that you need to make sure that you are keeping the main thing, right? Because it's not easy just bolting on another platform because of algorithms, all the things, the time commitment, right? Like we said, work smarter, not harder. So it's hard to do that if you're not even seeing success with what you're currently doing right now. So you may not even know how to work smarter. So now you're trying to work smarter in two places, and you're spread too thin, and you're basically now sucking at two places when you could be just doing mediocre and becoming exceptional in one place. Right? So this is another strong piece I want to keep in mind here. As humans, we just want to believe that things are easier than they are, and I think that if we can just lean into the fact that that's partially preposterous, it will allow you to kind of see things a little bit differently there, right? And just additionally, I think that the tough part with I see with a lot of people, and I could visualize it myself even too when I was getting into this space. I was for those of you who don't know, I was a corporate accountant for 6-7 years out here in Boston, and for myself, I remember coming into this thinking like, you know what? I just basically followed a few steps to get to where I got to. I graduated from high school, went to college, got my accounting degree. Literally like I swear it was like 7 to 14 days. A week to 2 weeks later, I got a temp to perm accounting job. 3 months after that, it turned from temporary to permanent. And then before you know it, I worked at the first place for 3 years, left and got a raise. I got maybe a couple raises in the process. Got a bigger raise to go to another place, and it's just I was just following these steps, right? That is just the reality, is that we can't compare that trajectory, that same step by just do A, B, and C and D, and things will follow naturally. It's not that black and white. The path isn't that clear. There are millions. I probably should have looked this stat up before, but there are so many millions of accountants out there, and they all have followed the same path because it is very black and white. Every company needs an accountant, right? The reality is, with what you're trying to do being a coach, not everyone needs whatever type of coach you are, right? There's a lot less people who need that. Now, the reality here is that when you're able to win as a coach, as a creator online, the benefits are astronomical, and that's why we're all pushing to make this happen. But let's not kid ourselves in thinking that there's this black and white path that we can just be following, right? And that's why a lot of the times we're naive thinking that we can do this without getting help. Like I literally have 8 and 9 figure entrepreneur coaches who have helped me get to where I'm at. Right? At the time when I got that first, my coach to get me a first $1,000 day there, that was literally a 7-figure coach that was helping me. At the time, they may have been actually multi 6 figures at that point, but they quickly scaled up to 7 figures. I know they're multi 7 figures, almost 9 figures now, or 8 figures now, right? So I just want to point that out here. It's not that same black and white path here. So we need to understand that just the odds are not in our favor, right? But the benefits are huge, so we want to make sure that we just take that seriously and focus on what's needed to actually start seeing results, right? Like it's just I'm speaking about this because a lot of this fear comes from delusion when we're getting things going, and I just think that the more we can kind of shine a light on that reality, the more you can then find some tools to basically help yourself get around that. And I think that one of the ways that you can really start to even help yourself too is by starting to shift, because you're gonna, like I said, you're gonna hit these speed bumps as an entrepreneur. A lot of times there will be things that are like actually more in the business, if you will, where some of these just like mental hurdles, they're not quite as like tangible, if you will, right? A little more intangible. So when it comes to some of these intangible fears and hurdles that you run into, I want you to just remember this as well too. It's always better in this industry, and really in life, to have a true abundance mindset, right? It's the scarcity mindset that usually is starting to attack on the fear here. It's because you've gotten things moving, you realize they're not how you believed it would go, and now fear's kicking in, and you're believing that, if I'm being blunt, the amount of money that's out there and available for you in the world is very scarce. When you know that that's false. Deep down in your core, that's false. Look at You know that's false, right? And so if you can just start to remind yourself of that in these moments here, right? Take a step back. Look at the world for what it is, right? These universal truths, if you will. There are so many billions and trillions of dollars out there, right? Your slice of the pie is waiting for you. It all comes back to, are you going to work smarter and harder to get it? Right? You can technically work smarter and not that hard to get it. It's like, how much do you want? That's why I say focus on what you can control if you really are trying to make a splash inside of your industry, inside of your business that much more. Right? We just have to also have, I believe at its core, a fundamental belief that it will work. We have to have this at our core. And, I really, there's a reason I would say that every successful entrepreneur, you could say, would be considered a dreamer, right? Every successful entrepreneur, I would argue, is a dreamer to one extent to the other. And it's true because the visions that we have as entrepreneurs, they're not very practical. You wouldn't be considered, sane to majority of people out there. I love this saying where it's like, I don't want to be normal, and I believe that at my core, I don't want to be normal there. And so being an entrepreneur is not normal. You are a rare breed entering into this domain, or if you're in here successfully, you already know that you're a rare breed. When you look at your family members, when you look at your friends, when you look at your neighbors, there's in my neighborhood here, there's only so many other business owners. When I think about business owners versus employees, there's no shot at any of them. Like, I'm not saying I'm better or worse than them, but these are the realities. They weren't dreaming like how I dreamed to get to this. And I reap the benefits that I reap. And there are, of course, pros and cons to both sides here. That's not what this is about. The reality, though, is that we just have to believe that it will work. And to believe that it will work at its core, that means that you're living in an abundance mindset, right? Because you believe that out there in the world, it is there, it is waiting for you. You just have to create your own path to get it. And so this is where a part of that comes with why we need to have the vision. We have to be able to believe it. We have to be able to dream a little bit in order to really allow it to come into fruition for ourselves here, right? Is that making sense there? Definitely hit the like button on the video if this is hitting home for you right now, because I'm telling you, even just what I've said so far here, it will be game changing for you if you just lean into this truth, put your ego to the side. It will light you up when you look 6 months down the line and you really lean into this information and advice I'm giving you right now. All right. So now I want to get into a little bit of just let's talk about a little bit of this next big piece, I guess, which is I want you to understanding the track that you are on, understanding what was the plan when you first set out to do what you were doing, right? The track that you were on, where did you see yourself? And let's just say go back to when you were starting, right? When you first decided to take the plunge, maybe you first made that first investment. Maybe you first decided to put out that first piece of content. Maybe you first decided to do whatever that first thing was that in your mind was like, all right, that was the starting line. Like, I felt like, okay, now I'm really here when I made this move. Doesn't matter what the move was, right? But that was the initial move that you felt you took courage and you got uncomfortable to do that, right? And what you realize is that was just your first uncomfortable move out of so many to come. All right. But with that being said, let's take another step back. Where did you see yourself 30 days after that first move, 60 days after it, 90 days after it, 6 months after it, a year after it? Don't kid yourself. You knew this was going to be hard is what I want you to be saying right now. Back when you thought about it from the starting line, right? You knew that 30 days later, like, it wasn't going to be a piece of cake. You knew that there's a reason that there's not many people doing what you're trying to do. So if that's the case, let's not be surprised when we're here. We just didn't know what hard looked like, right? We get into this, we knew it was going to be hard. We knew it was going to be tough. We knew there was going to be hurdles. We just didn't know what those hurdles were going to look like. And that's what people don't talk to you about enough when you're jumping into all this, right? You just you were unaware. You were uninformed. And there was this uninformed optimism you were jumping into this with, right? Now you're informed. And now you're a little more pessimistic now that you're informed. You know too much. But the reality is what happens, like I said, that happens to a lot of people around that 30 days in, that 60 days in, right? They know too much now. They know too much and it's dangerous in a negative way for them, right? I like to use the word danger in a good way. Like, know enough to be dangerous so you can wield those skills and make some money if you want, right? But they know too much. And that's why we talk about this idea of, well, at least now you can have this informed optimism that comes later, right? You were uninformed and optimistic before. Now you can start. Now you're basically informed. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to let the fear paralyze you? Are you going to go ahead and just say, you know what? Screw that. Like I'm going all in still. Like the mission, I remember the plan. I'm going back to my roots. I remember where I was 60 days ago. I knew that this was coming. Right. And if you're here, you're at the early days right now, you feel like it's like, listen to this, because like I said, it's coming. And the more you can prepare for this in advance, the better and the more equipped you'll be to really thrive beyond it. All right. So really just think about that. Right. And this is also why I would say it's extremely important to make sure that you seek out others when it comes to even like defining that initial plan that you set off to be on. Because the reality is, it makes sense too if you're feeling a ton of fear, if you never really got super clear around what's the plan in the first place. Maybe you just strung the plan along together yourself. And like, look at you, like you didn't know what, you just got into the 60 days ago as a complete beginner with like, you're going off a YouTube university or whatever. It's tough if you're doing about that without the true direct support. So this is why in reality, we need to start finding a solution that has actually been backed, that's been validated, that we can actually believe in, because we need to be able to believe in something in order for that vision to stay strong, right? As the belief drops, the vision is getting a little bit, it's not HD anymore all of a sudden, right? Or it's not 4K. Maybe it's went from 4K to HD. Then from 4HD to, I don't know, 720p, whatever is below. Clearly I'm not a graphics guy like that. The reality here is, though, we need to keep it as clear as possible. And so that what's going to help you a lot, it's just like I mentioned earlier on this, right? I found the mentor and he gave me that path to high income skill sets and really showed me how I can utilize that and implement that on Facebook back then, right? That's what allowed me then to get the leverage to start growing my email list and start sending emails to my newsletter. What gave me the leverage, the advantage, now take us to that similar strategy, bring it to Instagram, right? And then I was able to, now Instagram is a major part of my business model, and take these things, and it all comes back towards having that clarity, knowing from validation of either someone else has done it or now you've done it successfully, and you really can now believe in it that much more. It doesn't, learn from the experience of others if you don't have the experience of yourself yet. This is a really powerful piece here too. And he said, that's why I say it's so big to have where you can believe in it. But really, I want you to keep this in mind, that the workaround to all of this is focusing on what you can control. Right now, when it comes to you having your plan, when it comes to you staying on the right track, what can you control? What is it that's in your path that it's like, all right, let me just double down here, because this is what I know I can. I knew coming into this that I have control on how much content I can put out. I have control on how many people I can talk to on a daily basis, how many people I can reach out to. I have control on how much of this I can do, how much control of how much I can spend on my continuing education to get better at sales. I get better at marketing. I get better at copywriting. I have more control over who I bring on my team, who I don't bring on my team. I have control over how I decide to talk or manage my budget. I have control over these things. You don't have control over everything. That's a fact as well. But we have control of a lot more things that really, as I talk about a lot, that are the leading indicators that we can really tap into heavily and start seeing affect the direct outputs that we're looking for, that we feel like we have no control over, but those are just the lagging indicators, right? They're the results of the inputs that we put into the business on a regular basis. And so for that, we need to really, when we're in these tough times, we're in these moments, we have to go back towards what is it that we can truly control. And that's why for myself, I believe that, even because it's easier said than done. Like, I'm not going to sit there and act like it's not. Right? So that's why for me, I really lean into the fact of having the right tools to get yourself back on track when you fall off. I think that's really critical. And for myself, there's a lot of things that I fall back into. Even you can argue, that's part of the reason why, I'll play basketball, like, not to say daily, but I play like 5-on-5 basketball, like once or twice a week. I'll shoot around, and I, like a couple times a week as well too. I also lift about, twice a week at the moment. So I used to do like 2-3 times a week. The reality is, like, these things also help to kind of, you can say, like, pump up the testosterone, right? They get you moving, they get your mind thinking a little bit differently, they get you away, and it's also, and they've become, like sweet spots for me. They've become these rituals that just I can depend on because of how they make me feel. It's like they just make me feel better that much more. And these are big pieces I want to really lean into when it comes to your business as well too. I want to make sure that are good. So that's where for you, like that's on my end. I lean into the basketball sometimes. I lean into the weightlifting. I also, if you're thinking about like other ways that can basically help you out too, I also lean into things like, for me, I'm a big believer in journaling, right? So I love mind dump journaling on my end. And that's where when it comes to the mind dump journaling side, I think that just really helps me to kind of get my stuff on paper, get my crap out of my head and just pour into that and just realize, you know what? This is something that is just taking up too much space in my mind and it's doing me no good. It's like it just allows you to like release this energy. It releases the way, and you can just, when it's just, it's a great way to manage when those feelings just start creeping in. So that's what, like I said, to me, these are some things that help me. You need to find what works for you, and you need to find it sooner than later because the times are coming of negative times if they're not here yet. And the sooner we can start to get around that, the better and the more effective you'll be at really executing what matters that much more inside of the business. Right? And I would say from there, another thing that can just kind of help you out with this, I would say too, is like just constantly auditing your daily tasks. What is it that you've been focusing on a day-to-day basis? Right? What is it that, and I'd say treat this like your budget, at least how you should be treating your budget, where you're reviewing it on a regular basis, right? Whether it's weekly, quarterly, like you need to be reviewing this and seeing what's out of line. Because if you can see that, you can start to constantly look at what are you doing day to day and see what stuff isn't serving you. How have you slipped out of working smarter and you're just working hard again? Because sometimes it's falling back into these bad habits where if you can start to see like when something's going wrong, these little audits can help you out. That's why I say like with the budget side, when things with the profits, when they're getting out of hand, take a look at the budget, see how things are looking. It's always going to tell you a story. Don't be blind. I always say this too, like make data-driven decisions. But at the same time, we can easily allow we can manipulate it in a way where we kind of make it feel like it's telling us what we want to believe. And so for you right now, I want to see it where you can really just put your ego to the side and pour into what's the reality that what you're doing day to day is really telling you. Because that's really where we're going to shine that much more. Right. And then last thing I want to leave here with you as well, too, is just shifting your focus to long-term plays. I think that this idea of you just need to stop chasing kind of tactics and start building real scalable systems. The more you do that, the less that these short-term issues become a problem because you're so much more focused on where you're going long-term. Right. And that it's guaranteed there's going to be ups and down days during the long run. You're a human. This is a business. So if you realize that much more, it allows you to stop getting in your own head when it comes to what's happening on the short term, what's happening day to day, and like and letting what's happening day to day affect the vision. It's why the vision's so important. And we go back to that time and time again. All right. So like I said, hopefully this hits home for you here today. I want to I love always coming back to sometimes this like quote unquote mindset topic because it's everything, right? Like I said, I just know that I've seen it time and time again with my students, in my mastermind, with prospects I talk to. The difference a lot of times is the way that they're thinking. It's not the strategy that's broken. Any strategy will work because it's worked for someone else, right? The reality is you have to have the right mindset dialed in order to make that strategy work, in order to implement it consistently for long enough to reap the benefits. That much more. All right. So like I said, hit the like button here if you like this. Obviously, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I drop weekly videos. I've been dropping weekly videos for the past 4 years between on here on YouTube and on Facebook. So definitely tap in. Of course, too, if you want to go ahead and make sure that in reality you're able to kind of get a good strategy to help yourself out, definitely go ahead and click the link. It gets you to my community. At the same time, too, if you want my bestseller business manuscript, it really breaks down my path to $1 million. Now I did that. Drop a hashtag manuscript down below. I'll be happy to give you that. That's really it for today. Like I said, tap in, take action, lean in, and don't let your ego get in your way. I'll catch you next time.